Hello and welcome to Neuroshambles, the podcast that aims to shine a light into some of the murkier corners of what it's like to parent neurodivergent kids. I'm Mark Allen, and every episode I'm going to be swapping stories with my guests about some of the frankly ludicrous nonsense we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, if you're anything like me and you're feeling frazzled, overwhelmed and pretty much an outcast from polite society, join me. Hello and welcome to episode 25 of Neuroshambles. That's a quarter of a century of episodes. That is genuinely mind-blowing to me. I didn't think I'd be here, guys, to be honest, given the amount of other nonsense that is going on in my life. But here we are. It's still going, and a lot of you are still listening. So thank you so much for being here. It's genuinely a pleasure to have you back on board. I've got another full show for you where I'm going to be meeting a new guest talking about a particularly fun topic of the week this week. There's also going to be some neurodiversity champions, some tiny epic wins, and of course, some what the flip moments. Just a heads up, we had a couple of technical issues with this one, so the sound is not as good as I'd like, but it was a super fun conversation with my guest, and she had loads of great stuff to say, so it's definitely worth sticking with if you can just get away from the fact that it sounds like I've trapped her in a fridge for some of it. Anyway, time for me to stop talking about it and for you to start listening to it. Let's go.
Meet the guest.
Okay, I am super excited about my guest this week because she's one of the first people that I saw on Instagram who had an approach to raising neurodivergent kids that really resonated with me, because there's this sort of healthy embracing of the chaos of our life, and I really loved it. Now, as a newly published author and one of the founders of Send Reform England, not only is she a fierce advocate of neurodivergency, but she's also massively funny with all the content she puts out on her Instagram and TikTok accounts under her ASD with a G and T tag. She's brilliant, and I am genuinely honoured to have her on. I feel a little bit like a fanboy here, so I'll stop bagging on and talk to you. It is Lisa Lloyd. How you doing, Lisa?
Oh my God, what an intro. Oh, I love that. That's going to make my head very big.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on. I absolutely love these podcasts of yours.
Ah, so nice to hear it. So obviously, you'll know at the start of the podcast, we need to hear a little bit about your setup so we know what you're dealing with there. So who's on your team, Lisa?
So I have two autistic children, boy and a girl, and very, very different. We know it's the spectrum, and I prove that. And we've pretty much in a neurodivergent house, I feel. I've been referred. Obviously, right. When I'm 60, hopefully I'll get the results with the right time.
So is that for ADHD?
Well, initially, I was looking at autism, and then I started hearing more about ADHD, and I thought, that actually makes more sense now. So I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you got any suspected neurotypicals in your households?
Possibly my husband, but again, I'm still not sure.
Undiagnosed neurotypical.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Still unsure. Yeah. I'd say he's borderline.
Okay. Well, thanks for introducing your setup. We've got loads to talk about on this one, so let's just crack on with it.
What's the topic of the week?
So this week's topic of the week is one that I have been itching to get off my chest, and it's one that I'm pretty sure other neuroshamblers are going to want to hear, because it's something that pretty much all of us encounter on an almost daily basis, I think, and that is judgment from outsiders. Because it doesn't matter how often it happens to you, sometimes it's something that you can't help being utterly infuriated by and sort of disheartened by, when people who don't have the first clue about what we're going through feel perfectly entitled to stick their oar in and make sweeping judgments about our kids or our parenting or sometimes the very concept of neurodivergency. So I want to shine a light on some of the ill-considered comments that we hear most often and have a look at maybe some of the most appropriate ways that we're able to respond to them. So Lisa, as someone who I imagine is defiantly neuroshambolic when you're out and about, have you been on the receiving end of ignorant comments and judgment from strangers?
Oh, many times. many times. I mean, especially obviously being on social media, you are
Yes, of
very
course.
open to it with the trolling and things like that. So, yes, a lot. And in fact, I've done a post on it today, to be honest, because of somebody with their judgment. But yeah, it does happen. And I have to say, I do feel that it's getting sort of worse as the kids get older. I think
Okay.
people are a lot more understanding of toddlers having tantrums
Yes.
and,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
misbehaving, running around. They're quite sweet, if they're being a bit
Yeah,
cheeky and
and they're all a bit bonkers anyway,
yeah,
toddlers, right?
yeah,
And, it is part of the package.
exactly. But when you've got an 11-year-old who looks more like a 15-year-old,
Yeah.
having a meltdown in a supermarket, people are not as understanding. And, you get the stares and I hate to make this sweeping statement because I know it's not all of them, but I do feel like a lot of them are the elderly.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I think a lot that's probably going to be a theme that comes up throughout this because they've got very little else to do. Just sit, just sit and judge other people. I mean, I'm not like you say, it's a big sweeping judgment, yes, but a lot of it, I think, is rooted in the fact that, which we'll get onto, that neurodivergency wasn't a thing that was understood back in those days, and it's not like they're going to sort of pick it up and start learning about it now. They've got through the parenting. They've got through all of that shit show, and they're now sort of basking in the golden light of their days. So all they can do now is just sit and judge other people for what we're going through.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they've forgotten. I think it's so long ago. I think they've forgotten how bloody horrific parenting is. And,
Yes, 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 yes.
whether you've got neurodivergent kids or not, it's hard bloody work. And,
Yeah.
you're a lot of the time you'll do stuff for an easy life and, picking your battles and things.
But to be honest, I think I've forgotten some of the early stuff. Like when they're really little and the amount you go through. And I think it's an evolutionary strategy, basically, that your brain doesn't remember how fucking horrendous it is having babies and children. So a few years down the line, you forget and go, let's go again, guys.
And that's how people keep having babies, because I think otherwise, if people
Yes.
did
Yeah.
remember, nobody
Yeah. They'd
would
be like,
have
no,
more than
no.
one ever.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. So I can understand to a degree that they don't remember what it's like parenting, but also they have no concept of what it is with our kids because it's an invisible disability. So they don't present as if they're differently abled or they have neurological challenges. So they are sort of judging them by the neurotypical rule book.
Yeah.
And very often when you consult the neurotypical rule book and you see a child of 11 having a meltdown in a supermarket, you're like, well, obviously it's the parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously he's parented badly.
That's what it always comes back to. And, one of the things that people get so angry about, and I still don't really understand it, but is screen time at the dinner
Yeah,
table
yeah,
when
yeah.
you go out to eat. Now, I'm all for screens because I want to enjoy my bloody meal.
Yeah.
I don't want to be running around after my kids the whole time while watching my meal get cold.
But it's not just for you either. It's for them as well. It's like they don't want to be, it's helping them focus in what is probably quite an overwhelming environment. You've got the sound of other people eating, probably some music in the background, scraping cutlery, let's get the screen on and all enjoy it together.
And like you said, but it's sort of a lose-lose situation because if you don't give them the screen time, they're running around being disruptive.
Oh, and that's going to get judgment, isn't it?
Yeah, you're going to be judged for that. So, I don't see it any different than, when people used to give their kids colouring books and toys at the table to keep them entertained.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just because we've moved on with technology, you're still entertaining them, but in a different way.
Yes.
It's but you can see it. You can see the tucks and the stares and.
Well, I think that different people have different levels of sensitivity to other people's judgments. Like I am terrible for it. Like it is genuinely baked in me to be super aware of how everyone else is responding to me. I think part of this is because I spent like a decade as a stand-up comedian, and there's like you're constantly attuned to what other people are thinking. So when I'm out and about, I'm always on that high alert. And if someone rolls their eyes, I'm like, that's about me. What have I done? Or like my kids have done something that they're not supposed to. So I'm constantly on alert there. And I used to take that really personally, and I used to be really affected by that. Now, Tam, the kid's mum, is autistic and has ADHD. So does not give a shit about any of that judgment at all.
Love
And
it.
it's a wonderful place for them to be, right? So Tam will take them into places that I wouldn't fucking dream of because like I can't deal with the disapproval, the public disapproval. Tam will take them to a museum, right? A museum is like my worst nightmare. There's a museum near us which is full of stuffed animals from throughout the ages, right? There's like 19th century stuffed animals in glass cases, and it's all quiet, and people are there like observing the taxidermy throughout the ages, right? And my kids are going wild. They're running, and I'm just like, it stresses me out so much. And it's not necessarily the fact that they're gonna like career into like a glass case and destroy someone's work or a historical artifact. It's the fact that there are people judging them or judging me for letting them do that. So I steer well clear, whereas Tam was just like, let them run wild, I don't care.
Yeah, see that, and that is what I'm like now. And I used to be like you,
Yeah,
but I think because it happens so much, you
yeah.
sort of stop caring in the end, and you think, you know
That is,
what,
yeah,
like let them look, and and
yeah,
during a meltdown of things, I've actually asked people if they'd like to take a picture before because they're staring so much, and it's like, and there is a little bit where I'm like, people can't help it as well.
no, yeah,
Sometimes I
exactly.
think, they are going to stare. There's a lot of noise going on and things like that. Maybe they
Yeah,
don't mean it in the nasty way, but when you're in that moment, you can feel the tension, obviously, from your child having a meltdown anyway.
yeah.
And
Did
so
you used to feel that? So
I
in the early
did,
days,
definitely.
because this is in the early days when before diagnosis, you don't really know what's going on anyway, right?
Yeah,
You're not sure if there's any neurodivergency there. To be honest, in the early days, I didn't even suspect it. So you see your kid behaving like this, and it's drawing disapproval from people, and you genuinely do think you've got a point. They're an absolute fucking shit show at the
yeah,
moment. They are. My kids are disruptive. There's no mistaking that. We will walk into. We are the loudest people in any room at any given moment. That's just who we are. And in the early days, that was, I was judging myself as well, just thinking, am I just a shitty parent?
yeah. I mean, I was the judgy parent before I was a parent. Obviously, I was the perfect parent before
Oh,
I
that is
became a
the worst.
parent. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember.
Non-parents judging
Yeah,
parents.
I
Oh,
remember thinking, God, my child would just never let them eat a McDonald's and things like that. Like, oh my God, how times have changed. We have it every week. And it's so easy to be judgy when you've never walked in
yeah.
those shoes. That's the thing. And I
Yes.
think the problem is people don't realise what you've battled with before you've got to the point that they've seen you. So,
Yeah.
they may see, there's been times that Poppy's decided that she is not wearing her shoes around the supermarket. And I'm like, do you know
Mhm.
what? Don't wear your bloody shoes around the supermarket.
Yeah.
And
Don't need
yeah,
it. Don't need the
you
battle.
can see all the stairs and everything. What I don't realise is I've had all morning battling, brushing teeth, hair,
Yeah. Yeah.
getting
Yeah. Yeah.
dressed.
Yeah.
And, this is the last thing. And I think,
And so is Poppy. Poppy's had it as
yeah,
well. So it's like, you know what? Let's just remove this battleground. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
And take out that stress. She's enjoying herself. She's not hurting anyone. And I
Mhm.
think that's what it always sort of comes down to. Are they hurting anybody? Are they hurting themselves? And if the answer is no, then why does it
That's
matter?
yeah.
Why does it
Yeah.
matter? And,
But
we do have to be a little bit aware, I think, in certain circumstances, like I said, at the restaurants and things, I wouldn't let them have their tablets on full blast, ruining other people's meals and stuff like that.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to be a bit considerate as well. But then if you can't hear it, Why does it bother you
Well,
looking at
that's
it?
it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's people judging when you've done everything you can to reduce these variables. You know, it's like this is the best it's going to get, guys.
Yeah,
Like, this is the least disruptive I can be.
yeah,
And there is that tendency to want to maybe hide away a little bit and to not go out because you don't want that judgment and you don't want to be disruptive. And I certainly used to sort of veer down that route of going, let's just stay in the house, dudes, and we'll just, we'll just stay here and we'll have fun and improvise and just, but I don't want to do that
no,
now. I feel a little bit like, well, we're just gonna go out and be who we are. And it's been it's been probably the biggest learning curve for me as a parent is letting go of caring what other people think about me.
yeah.
That's been huge. I'm still not there.
No, and I think we're all going to have that to a certain extent. I mean, I still have to really push myself for us to go for days out with people, with friends and things, because
Mhm.
I'm so terrified that their day's going to be ruined by us.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
you don't want to put that onto your friends and things, but it's like,
yeah.
you have to push yourself and step out of that comfort zone.
But also, if they're your friends, then they accept that, right?
Exactly.
And if they don't accept that, pretty soon you realise they're not your friends,
Yeah,
and that's okay as well.
yeah,
So it's a good litmus test, isn't it? I tell you what, if you want to be our friend, let's all go to a restaurant together and
yeah, yeah.
see if you stick around after the bill.
A good idea, actually. Just put them through that and see if they withstand it. And I think you're right with what you said about before diagnosis. And I think that's why the diagnosis can help so much, is
Mm.
because you're like, oh, I'm not a shit parent. This is actually really hard. And
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, and I think it then helps you on days out and stuff like that as well to know. I mean, sunflower lanyards and things like that, that can be helpful to stop other people from judging, but also to
Totally, yeah,
make
that is it.
yourself feel
Yeah.
a little bit sort of like a dad, isn't it? Like, please don't judge me.
Yeah, there's two purposes, isn't it? It's like, firstly, my child might need accommodation, so maybe you
Yeah,
can help if you need to. But also, secondly, back the fuck off,
yeah,
right? I'm dealing with shit that you have no concept of. It's like a crucifix to vampires, isn't it? Look at this lanyard. Just stop judging. Go away.
yeah, that's the thing. And you do want to retaliate, and I have retaliated quite a
Oh,
few
have
times.
you?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
I've not.
quite a few
So,
times.
what when people have said
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
So, what's been? Have you got any situations that you can relay?
Well, I mean, we've had times soft play and things like that where the kids are throwing the balls and things like that. They're throwing them out of the ball pit. I'm throwing them
Yeah,
back in again. But, you get people that they're like police of fun. There's only a certain way that children are allowed to have fun. And it's like, do you know what? Does it matter if they climb up the slide? Does it matter if they throw a few balls out of the ball pit, really? Like,
yeah.
it's like the organised fun gang. It's like, so, I have said to them, I'm going to put them all back afterwards. But, at the moment, they're quiet, they're having fun. What's it to
Yeah.
you?
And how do they respond to that though? Have you had
They would usually tut and walk off. Or,
the tut though, for me, I hate the
I
tut. The
know,
tut's the worst, isn't it,
it is.
man? It's such an English thing. So we've got a lot of listeners from all over over the world who might not be familiar with the tut.
Yeah,
But the tut is
very
a very
British.
specifically British
Yeah,
thing. So if I can do it on I'll try and record it, a tut, so you don't know what it sounds like. It's people looking at you and going,
with
and
the roll
it's
of
it's
the
yeah,
eye.
it's
It's
the
got
roll
to
of the
be
eyes and
with
then the
that.
slight turn
Yeah,
away of like, you're not even worth it. I'm judging you, but I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to judge you with this one
yeah,
sound. And for me, that is mortifying. When it gets to tut level,
yeah,
it's like they've given up.
yeah,
Like, you'll never change. I've given up on you. This is
yeah.
you are the
I would
worst.
prefer them to swear at me or slap me round the face rather than giving me the tut and the eye roll.
I know, but yeah, you can't do anything once it's got to that level. They're beyond salvage.
Yeah.
You got to move on. What I wanted to do, because I think that there are different levels of judgment. People judge you for different things, and they are frustrating in different ways. The one that I was going to look at first is people judging the kids themselves. Because obviously our kids, if they're not wearing the sunflower lanyard, to all outward appearances look like neurotypical kids. So people aren't aware that their behavior is caused by neurodivergency. They just think they're naughty. And I fucking hate that, the judgment. And you sometimes get them to say it. That little boy's being naughty, when he's just waiting at a traffic light.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just being a bit fizzy.
Yeah.
Stand by me. Don't be like him, darling. It's like, oh, fuck off. Sorry, there's going to be a few swears on this podcast. I'm sorry. But it is that judgment of naughtiness when they don't understand is pretty frustrating, I think.
Yeah, and it's, like you said, when you're looking at the other ones, I always find that the kids look a bit bored. And it's like mine's running around in circles, like jumping off of stuff, like literally living their best life. And
you've
got another child that's standing there, very well behaved, holding their parents' hand, but they do look bloody bored, let's face it. And it's like, it is hard because, we're not saying at all that all neurodivergent kids are not being naughty. Sometimes they are bloody naughty.
Oh, yeah, they've got it in.
Yeah.
It's in their locker.
And that's hard in itself, trying to recognise, what you do tell off and what you don't, and what they can control and what they can't. But I think it's neurotypicals that have decided what is classed as naughty behaviour.
Yeah. They are the guardians of the rule book, aren't they?
Yeah. And it's like, why is that naughty? Why do we have to stand still? And
well, that's the thing as parents of neurodivergent kids that you end up having to do is to rewrite the rule book from various different expectations. Yeah, like you said, standing still, and the way that my kids move in public is very unusual. They are not linear. They don't stay with me. They are like they're extroverts and they're disruptive and they're impulsive, and that's just part of who they are.
Yeah.
And if I spent all of my time trying to get them to not do that, firstly, it's going to be unsuccessful. I'm going to get stressed. I'm going to be inviting battles that I don't need to have. Secondly, I'm going to be abusing their trust in me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really important that I allow them to express themselves in the way they do, as long as it's not, they're not kicking people in the shins or knocking them over and stuff like that. There is this healthy grey area where I sort of let them get away with a light disruption. And then, obviously if they bump into someone, then you need to rein them back in again and reorient them and stuff. But it's that constant battle when I'm out and about.
Yeah, it really is. And, there are things that they do and things that they say as well, that can come across as so rude and, terrible things.
Yes.
I think, oh my God. And you can see the people's faces are like, well, that child has not been brought up very well. And but we know they've got no filter, it's say what they see kind of thing. And it's a nightmare, but who has decided that is naughty behaviour? Who's decided that is not the way we're supposed to act?
There was never a meeting. There should be a meeting. Society should get together with representatives from the neurodivergent and neurotypical communities to go, actually, can we drop that one? Can we drop that social expectation that you have to stand still at traffic lights? Because that's not going to work for my lot. Because there's also this thing where, so obviously ADHD is one of the drivers of this fizziness, right? This extrovert movement that they seem to have. So you have that level of this drive to move, this need to move, and but then you couple that with autism, which is then this sort of lack of awareness of other people, and then it becomes this crucible of judgment.
Yeah,
like the worst one is Jay when he's on his bike, right? Jay loves to ride a bike. He likes going fast, and he does this thing where he knows in his head that he's going to drive towards a group of people. And he knows he's going to move. He's not going to, obviously, he knows, I'm not an idiot. I'm not going to career into them. They don't know that, Lisa. So they see this kid riding towards them with this determined look on his face, and they're like, "He's fucking coming for us. This kid's a fucking hooligan," and they're really annoyed. And then he'll swerve out the way at the last minute, but they'll just think that he's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Whereas actually he's getting, the thrill of knowing that he's going to move out the way, but not actually doing it with any intent to upset anyone or anything. And that's the difference. It's like people don't realise there's no bad intent there. It's just they're in there.
You try and redirect him and say, don't do that because people don't like it. It's like, I'm not going to hit them. It's like, I know you know that, but they don't.
Oh, see, I would encourage it, to be honest. I know.
Go for the old people.
Yeah,
really, I mean, they're already judging you. You might as well give them a reason.
Exactly. Like you said, they need something to do. So it'll be a bit of excitement in their day.
There is this judgment, I think, that our kids are off the rails, though, by the older people, again, and that they have no respect for their elders. And to be honest, that's true. They don't have any respect for their elders. I don't know how to square that. No, they don't. You have to earn respect.
I'm kind of with them. I don't respect somebody just because they're older than me. They could be an absolute arsehole. Why would I respect somebody that's an arsehole that could be older?
Because they're older. They've earned that right to be an arsehole, apparently.
But, I'm kind of with them on this. And I think, especially with our kids, building up trust and things like that, it takes a long time. And earning their respect takes a long time. And like you said, they don't show that respect, even with teachers and things like that, just because they're in that role, just because they're older. It's like you've got to win them over in a way.
Yeah, there's no hierarchy there, is there? Especially with PDA, when PDA is involved, it's like,
No, yeah, definitely. Poppy is in her head in charge of the classroom. The people that are in it, including her teacher, are just guests.
And how does that work out when Ofsted come in?
They'll probably hide her away and lock her in a cupboard or something like that.
So the second area of judgment you get, not is just people judging the kids, and this is the one that I find probably the hardest to deal with, is judging the parenting. Because the way that we have to parent is different from the way that neurotypicals have to parent. Neurotypicals usually say, sweetheart, get away from the bin, and the child will get away from the bin. Whereas, we're like, I don't think it's the best idea to be standing in the bin. And like, I'm just going to leave that there. Gentle parenting, right? I mean, so you have to have a different approach, the low demand approach, because we've tried the other ones. Yeah. We tried the neurotypical approaches, and guess what? They don't fucking work. No. They usually lead to an escalation of the situation and to more behavior that you're going to judge. So we have to gentle parent. The thing is, as I kind of touched on a previous episode, the Am I Raising an Arsehole episode, not everyone understands gentle parenting. In fact, very few people do. So they then just judge that you're a lazy parent or a shit parent that doesn't care. And I find that really hard.
Yeah. See, I think there's a lot of negotiation. It's like negotiating with terrorists a lot of the time. That's the problem. There is, there's a lot of negotiating, a lot of bargaining, a lot of bribing, I have to bribe them quite often. And, it is a completely different way. And it's not necessarily a bad way. That's the thing. People think just because it's a different way than how they've done it, it's bad. Mm-hmm. But all kids are different. All kids need to be parented in different ways. Even my two autistic kids have to be parented in very different ways. You've got one that is an absolute follower of the rules. Mm-hmm. The rules are there for a reason. We must stand by them. We have strict deadlines and routines and everything like that. And then you've got Poppy, who is just chaos. And, there are no rules and the rules are to be broken. And, but I parented, started off parenting them the same. They're both in the same household and everything like that. And you've got one very well-behaved child and one terribly behaved child. Which is proving itself really that it's not the parenting. You've got individual little people with little personalities who are also neurodivergent, and they have to be dealt with in different ways. That sounds awful, dealt with, but you know what I mean. Like,
You have to have different
Yeah,
strategies and different approaches, and that's the thing. And so when you're out and about and you're employing those approaches, and in particular gentle parenting and low demand, there is sometimes judgment against predominantly from older people, that you are not parenting.
yeah,
That you're like, I get this quite a lot. I get judgment typically from older women. I don't know why. Because they see a dad out and about and they think, this guy's fucking
yeah,
clueless. He's letting his kids run amok, right? He doesn't know what he's doing. Oh, he's such a dad. It's like, I have spent so much time
yeah,
getting to this point where I have strategies that, believe it or not, actually work with my
yeah,
kids. So this is managed behavior and this is studied parenting strategy. They just assume that it's not. And I that judgment really gets to
yeah,
me because I think about it so much. And I see neurotypical parents who are shitty parents, right? That don't really have that investment in strategies and what to do with their kids, but their kids are impeccably well
yeah.
behaved. That really gets to me,
But
man.
that's the thing, because, we're often called lazy parents, like you said, because of gentle parenting, the food that they eat, all things like that. And
Hmm.
actually, we're probably the unlaziest ones because we have to work
Oh,
so much
Jesus.
harder at
Yeah, yeah,
everything
yeah, yeah.
else. And like you
Yeah,
said, you have to basically study how to parent your child. And it's incredibly hard and we're still learning. But what I would say is I do think it is a generational thing as well. And I think the way that this generation is going, I'm hoping we're going to have better relationships with our children and things because there's more
yeah.
respect
Hmm.
there. We've learned that it's not a case of children should be seen and not heard. And
No, no, no.
there needs to be a mutual respect. We need to understand that, we're not going to force feed them anymore. We're not going to beat them when they do something wrong. And, there is that generation. I think there is a lot of people that do not have a good relationship with their parents now because of the way that
Yes,
they
yeah,
were
yeah,
brought
yeah.
up. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of people that were undiagnosed as well, especially,
Hmm.
have a lot of issues with how they were brought up now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's hope that this is going to work out in the
I
longer
hope
term.
so. It's going to go one way or the other. They're going to hate us or love us.
But you do sometimes get those, you get comments from people who believe that our kids would benefit from a firmer approach. That's like, oh, give him to me for a weekend. Or, he wouldn't be like that if it was my kid. It's like, no, he would be 10 times
Yeah,
worse if he was your kid. Absolutely. Like, it would be completely off the rails. It would be open warfare. I know from experience that if you respond to Jay by shouting, he doubles down and shouts back. And that is never going to be resolved by just continuing to shout and continuing to raise the
yeah,
aggression. Whereas in the old days, there was a style of parenting. It's like, that you would just be aggressive and you'd be angry and the kid would shut up and just
yeah.
do what you say. But
I mean, I'm not going to lie and, say that I am a lovely, gentle parent. No, I do shout.
I don't think anyone who listens to this podcast would say that they never
Yeah.
shout. No, jeez.
Yes, I do end up becoming, it takes a while, but I do end up at that stage.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah.
But, I've never understood the argument with if they're hit them. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, you're telling them to not hit by hitting them. And it's the same, like you said, with shouting and things like that and,
Mhm.
losing your temper. You're telling them to not lose their temper by losing your temper with them. And it's like, it
Yes.
doesn't work. It doesn't. I never want my kids to be afraid of me. And, I think that is the parenting style that some people think we should be going down is, putting a fear in them.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
them to be scared of me. I want them to be able to come to me with their
It's
problems.
so
And
important, isn't it? Yeah.
so
Mhm.
I can't agree with that style at all.
No, but they don't get it. They don't understand it. They haven't taken the time to look into it to the degree that we have,
Yeah,
obviously. So that's just what they know. They're parenting by a different rule book, right? By the neurotypical rule book, where if you handle this behavior in this way, then this is the result you get. Obviously, we have learned to write our own rule books for our kids because they're not neurotypical, but also for each individual kid, they have their own different user instructions. Because as you say, Poppy's very different from Finn. And that's, you have to have a different approach from one to the other. So anyone else who's looking from the outside and just applying this blanket rule to how you should parent your children is just completely fundamentally not getting it and can be very safely just disregarded. In terms of being judged by my parenting, I had an experience where I was judged by the very first person I told I thought that Jay was autistic. And it really affected me. So this was a friend, right? And we were at their house and there was a play date with 4 kids and Jay was one of them. And Jay was just having a really bad day. And me and Tam had long kind of talked in secret about the fact that he might be autistic and maybe this is a thing that's going on. And, in the early days where you don't tell anyone because you don't know and you don't want to be sort of labeling them if it's not that. And you don't know what's going on. And Jay just had a really bad day and he was not coping with playing very well. And at one point he just got really angry and he crouched down on the floor and he was pretending to be a Pokemon, right? And he was hissing and snarling at these other kids and they were a bit weirded out by it and started laughing at him and he just lost it. So I had to go in there and physically carry him out. And he was so overwhelmed and he was so dysregulated. And again, in those days, I didn't know what was going on or what to do. So I was like, I just think we should leave. I was mortified by his behavior. And so it's like, let's just get him in the car, calm him down in the car. And I strapped him in and the mum came out just kind of check on us. And I was like, I'm really sorry, but I don't know. I was like, we think he might be autistic. At that moment, I don't even remember the moment when you first tell someone that is just really like, here is someone that knows us, that is a safe person to confide in. I'm going to say it for the first time. And she rolled her eyes.
No.
Like it was non-thinking, like it wasn't a conscious thing. As soon as I said it, she rolled her eyes and I was just absolutely heartbroken. Do you know what I mean? When you think, oh, maybe I'm making it up, that response to me was so laced in judgment. Either it's my parenting that is causing this behavior, but I don't think it was that. I don't know what it was because this person typically is usually really caring and really considerate and really compassionate. I don't know what happened in that moment, but when you first, to have that as the response when I first spoke out was just shattering.
Did you say back?
Nothing, because I didn't, they didn't know that I saw it. I just sort of pretended to ignore it and I was like, I'm just going to get in the car. I'm just going to drive. But something broke in that relationship from that moment. Like I can't be around people who are going to judge. And that was an instinct. It wasn't a considered response. It was just, you've not got my back, I don't think.
Yeah. And that has happened with us, with several people and family members as well, that we have essentially now cut out of our lives because they never took the time to understand. I mentioned in my book actually about Poppy had a horrific birthmark and, it was made her arm double the size of it. But we got it checked at the doctors and everything, and it was just a birthmark that was going to fade with time, didn't cause any problems, nothing like that. But we told this family member about Finn's autism diagnosis at the time because we didn't know about Poppy then. And the response was just nothing, didn't want to hear about it, but asked constantly about Poppy's arm all the time. Always rang up and checked.
Because that's physical, right? That's
physical.
That's visible.
They could see it. And something that was going to affect Finn throughout his whole life, they never checked about, never asked about, didn't want to hear it. But something that was just literally a birthmark that was saved.
Cosmetic. It's cosmetic, dudes.
Yeah, they were far more concerned about that. And I thought in that instance then, I was like, this is what we're going to come across in life because, that's why it's called a hidden disability. The fact that it's hidden makes people react the way that they do, makes them judge, makes them ignore it. And it's so frustrating. The judgment that we get all the time using the disabled toilets, for one thing, We take Poppy
yeah.
into the disabled toilet because the hand dryers set her off. She goes hysterical with hand dryers going on. So in the disabled toilets, we can control that. Whereas if you go to the ladies, they could go off randomly with whoever's in there. But, oh, my God, the judgment that you get from other disabled people as well, because they can't see why you're using them. And, they're judging, thinking you should not be using these toilets. These are for disabled people. But what they mean is physically disabled.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is another way that we get judged.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? The other frustrating one is the people that judge the very concept of neurodivergency, right? These are the ones that is like, it's just a label.
Yeah.
You get that one.
All
Oh,
the
that drives me
time.
crazy. Oh, it didn't exist when I was a kid. It's like, oh, dude.
And it did.
It
did. And this is what
I
I
know,
try to
of course it
say
did.
to them all the time. I'm like, do you remember that weird child in your class? The one nobody spoke to? You remember the one that was naughty, misbehaved? You were neurodivergent, probably. It was always around.
Absolutely. And you kind of look back, I look back at my childhood and like loads of people, I'm like, that kid was definitely neurodivergent. And they were bullied horribly and have probably suffered for the rest of their lives because of the trauma they experienced at school because people didn't understand it. But they won't have it. There's a genuine belief, I think, from some people that ADHD and autism is just a fad. It's a phase that people are just identifying as it because it's trendy. It's like, it's not.
No.
It's not. It's not trendy. There's a very big difference between people now starting to understand their neurodivergency and own it as well, crucially, of going, this is who I am and this is how I respond in certain situations, and being proud about it and just being upfront about how they experience the world. There's a difference between that and just doing it because it seems cool.
And I think that's a problem with the media, the local authorities and things like that. We've seen them say it's the in thing to do now is to get an EHCP and stuff like that. And it's like, these people are saying these things. It's like, how on earth would that be the in thing to do?
Yeah, you genuinely think that I want to fill out all this fucking paperwork and speak to all of these people because it looks cool? Because firstly, it doesn't look cool. My kid does not want to be different in any way. My kid is absolutely mortified by the fact they have to have accommodations. They fight all the time to not have those accommodations, but they need them, and it's hugely dysregulating to them. I'm not just doing it for laugh, guys. I'm not just doing it because it's a status symbol. By whose world is an EHCP a status symbol?
No idea. And this is the frustrating thing, because these people who make these judgments are not doctors. They're not the teachers.
No,
they're not the ones that see it. They've probably never even met an autistic person in their life.
No.
And these sweeping statements come from these people, and this is what causes a lot of people to then be like, oh, well, they said it, so there must be something in this where they're all in it for the benefits and,
I mean, if someone says sort of it's just a label, which I've had. Have you had that? There's one person in my life in particular that that says, "Oh, it's just a label," and every time she says the word label, I say, "No, it's diagnosis."
Yeah.
Diagnosis. Just correct it every time. It's not a label. It's a diagnosis. And then if you then just correct it every single time, then they start to understand that there's something more going on. Because like the amount of people that have had to study my kids and read all the logs and observe them in different situations to get this diagnosis, to just say it's a label is completely undermining the whole torturous route we've had to go down to get an acceptance that they are neurodivergent.
And I don't think you have it in other circumstances. I've never heard anybody say that they've got diabetes before and somebody turned around and said, oh, you and your labels. It's a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis.
Yeah. It's like got cancer. It's like, oh no, it's just a label, mate. Stop banging on about it. It's one of those trendy chronic diseases everyone's trying to get diagnosed with. For fuck's sake.
The ironic thing is, the labels are the things that we're trying to get them away from. They were labelled as weird. They were labelled as naughty.
Yeah, exactly. my parents, who are like really, amazing, and they've really kind of done the research and studied autism as soon as we told them about Jay, and they've really been on board with it, which has been wonderful. But like when we were growing up, there was always like, oh, here goes Mad
Yeah.
Clive. He's a bit funny, isn't he? He's a bit funny in the head. It was that. It's like, no, he's neurodivergent.
Yeah.
That's just what you called it, right? He's a bit eccentric, or he's a bit odd.
Eccentric.
There were like
Yeah.
all of these people existed. They were just not diagnosed. That was the label.
Exactly.
I mean, we've got a family member to this day who refuses to believe that Jay is neurodivergent. It is, sadly, can't just bin him off. You can do that with friends, but with family, you're sort of a little bit more tied to them.
I have.
Okay, yeah, good.
I have. I've been them off, even family.
Well, Tam and I are separated now, so I don't have to get involved anymore, which is nice. But there's like, oh, Otto isn't normal, but Jay is. It's really frustrating. I haven't bothered to tell them that India's on the pathway. It's like they wouldn't be able to square that. But I am 100% sure that the person that says this is neurodivergent themselves, right? PDA, right? So the reason that Jay is normal is because Jay is exactly like them. So they're like, look, this guy's like.
I honestly think that.
The person is saying it's a label, it doesn't exist, it wasn't around in my day. It's like, no, it is. You fucking look in the mirror, love.
It's exactly that. And I've met so many of those people, and they're the people that, they go out only every Wednesday. They have to go and get their thing at the local shop, but they'll only ever do it on a Wednesday. And they're the ones that are like, no, you have to have this roast dinner at Christmas. You cannot have anything else. It has to be roast. And it's like, oh my God, it's you. That's why you think this is the norm. Because, you're seeing yourself and you're like, well, everybody does that. And it's like, actually, no, they don't, Margaret.
Whenever this happens, because this is the thing, like when I can, I will correct their misjudgment, when they say it's a label or that it didn't used to exist. But you've got to make that evaluation in that moment in time. Do you have the time to correct them?
Yeah.
Do you have the mental strength and the energy? And then there's that other one of like, are they actually the kind of person that's even going to listen? Are they open to being educated? Are they open to listening? Or do you just shrug it off and cease contact with them from that point on?
Yeah. I think it's a case of your own well-being, isn't it? And, picking a fight with everybody is not good. It's not healthy for yourself. And I think, like you said, some people will never listen, unfortunately.
The next level of judgment that I was going to look at is the people that minimize the challenges of neurodivergency. They don't mean anything by it, but it's still judgment because they're doing it without realizing it, but they're minimizing the impact of neurodivergency by you're saying like, oh, he's fine. That's when you get, it's like, I mean, no, he's not. I mean, I tell you what, I'll give you a call when he's not fine. You can have a chat with him and then tell me. Or it's also, there's loads of these statements. There's like, I think my child's a bit autistic because he's a bit particular about things. And they're doing it to try and connect with you, to try and bond. But it is, it is invalidating your experience. And that's the frustration, is that they're not trying to. I know it's an attempt to connect, but it's like going up to an amputee and going, oh, I know how it feels. I stubbed my toe this morning. It's like, you don't fucking know. It's a whole different thing.
It is infuriating because you can't be a little bit autistic. That is not a thing.
Yeah. It's on or off, guys.
Again, it comes down to diagnosis and labels and things. It's like you either have a diagnosis or you don't. You can't be a little bit of something.
But also it's this lazy kind of understanding that autism is on a sliding scale. So you've got like a little bit autistic at this end, and then quite autistic there, and then really fucking autistic at the end. And everyone's somewhere on that slider. And it's such a frustrating misconception that that is like peppered throughout people's thinking, that I can't correct it every single time.
No. And that is the problem that you have. And I think, and I explain this to people all the time, because from the outside, people would assume Poppy is more severe than Finn. because she
Yes.
has speech delay, she stims more, she's, you know, academically not okay like he is. But actually, if for me, I would say he suffers with being autistic more. He worries
Right. Yeah.
more. He has more anxiety.
hmm
He has more. He wants to fit in, whereas Poppy doesn't give a shit. She
Yeah.
doesn't notice. It's
Yeah,
different.
that's like Jay and Otto. Actually, it's
Yeah,
very similar. So Jay is PDA. He's just like um, it's interesting that you say suffers from autism because I've got a guest called Liam Malone who I spoke to who said this brilliant thing about autism because he's autistic as well, and he said, I don't suffer from autism. Everyone else suffers from my autism. And it is a little bit like that with Jay. Right?
exactly like
And
that with
imagine Poppy.
Poppy. Everybody else, I mean, she's absolutely fucking fine.
I love it.
You know, as long as everybody's doing what she wants. But yeah, and that's what I try and explain to people. So, you know, if you were looking at this imaginary scale that people think from mild to severe,
Mhm.
you know, you would, an outsider, put Finn at the mild end. But actually,
Yes.
in
Yeah.
truth,
Yeah.
he's the one that is having the meltdowns at home. And he's the one that
Yes. So when they say he's only got mild autism, it's like no. And I've seen this. I've seen someone else say this, but they said no. It's just that you experience his autism mildly,
exactly, yeah,
and that he's actually going through all kinds of things, under the
yeah,
surface that you're not aware of, and it's just presenting to you mildly. But to him, it's probably more severe than you say, Poppy,
definitely,
just getting it all
yeah.
out there and dealing with it
I
in the
mean,
moment.
there was an autistic person that put it brilliantly, and I said, "I'm not a fucking curry. I don't have mild autism. I'm autistic. It's, you know, and it's so true. It's not
Yeah.
mild. You cannot. It's a spectrum. It's not a scale
Yeah.
from 0 to 10.
The one that really gets to me, and again, this is the one you really have to dredge up any kind of energy to address on the spot, is, well, everyone's a bit on the
Yeah,
spectrum, aren't they? Oh, fuck
yeah,
off. It's not. They like it and again, there's so many, you can go into so many different levels of why that's wrong. And again, you need to judge the capacity of the person to actually take it on board. Because some people just need some redirection. They just need
yeah,
educating. And if you're in the right mind frame, you can go, well, no, not everyone's autistic. Like, I get why you think that, because everyone experiences some elements of autism to some degree. Some people experience sensitivity to noise. Some people don't like large crowds. Some people don't like changes in routine. But it doesn't overwhelm you and it doesn't
yeah.
dysregulate you. It's not like, you don't have a completely different neurotype to where those things are going to become prohibitive in your daily life. So just to say everyone's on the spectrum is to completely undermine that challenge that our kids are facing.
It is. And I think, like you said, it's educating them on, everybody can have some traits. But, if you've got, say, 10 of those traits, then you're autistic.
Yeah.
If you've got one or two. And I try and put it across, when I was pregnant, I had terrible headaches. I still get headaches now, but it doesn't mean I'm pregnant now. It's just I've got one of the symptoms of being pregnant. But, I have to actually be pregnant to be pregnant.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's trying to get that across to them. But again, I don't think a lot of them mean it in a nasty way or anything like that. But it does undermine the struggles, and it is a disability.
A lot of the time, I think it is people just trying to bond with you a little bit. I think of like going, well, I don't, of just trying to identify with you a little bit and going, oh yeah, it must be hard because I have this struggle or whatever it is. I think they've noticed your child is different and they want you to feel a bit better about it.
Exactly,
so they sort of try and sort of meet you on common ground. But
I think it's not knowing what to say as well.
They're just awkward. When your kid's kicking off,
and they're like,
absolutely kicking off when a hand dryer's going off, they're like, oh yeah, we're all a bit autistic, aren't we? It's like, no, because you're not on the floor, like like wriggling around and screaming.
It's absolute shit, isn't it? Like, what do you say?
You just look at him and go, oh, he's off again. That's it. I'd prefer that though, right?
I would.
That would be much
I
more
would love
acceptable.
it for somebody to be like, oh, how bloody shit is that? That is bloody awful, isn't it?
Yeah. But it is so much better than yeah, but that's it. It's having acknowledgement that it's a challenge and that it's tough rather than just airbrushing it out and pretending that it's not and making light of it, I think, because that's the thing to me. This is one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast, is that I just wanted to go, this is really fucking hard. The stuff we have to deal with is really difficult, and and everyone's going through it, you know, that are neurodivergent, and other people don't get it. And so the more I could talk about it and express my difficulties and listen to other people's, the more we could, you know, band together and validate each other's experiences. And I wasn't getting that from neurotypicals because they don't get it. Because why would they? They don't live with us 24 hours. I'd love it if we had someone just sort of like living in our house for 24 hours, just in a corner. Obviously, don't, because that will dysregulate them. Actually, that's a bit creepy now I think about it. Just so weird. Shh, ignore the person in the corner of the room.
Be disguised as a plant or something.
Yeah, I'd love it. Just so they could see like a day in the life of the
Yeah.
shit we have to deal with. Then they wouldn't go, oh yeah, we're just like you. No, you're not. No, they'd be very fucking glad that they're not.
Yeah, they'd be running out of that door as quick as the 24 hours was up.
Exactly. Sorry, we're nothing like you. I take it all back. Yeah, I know, but it's difficult to get across at these people because it is, as I say, it's coming from a well-meaning place. And firstly, you get the ones that sort of try to identify. That's one thing, but you also get the ones that try and look on the bright side of things. You know, oh, he seems normal.
Yeah,
that's one. He doesn't seem autistic. I mean. I had this once. I went camping. I go camping quite a lot, so a lot of my stories are about camping because all my kids love it and they're really happy and they're really, you know, they're in a pretty happy place when they go camping. And one point, one of my friends who knows us really well said, he doesn't seem autistic. And back then, I didn't know how to respond to that because you don't end up going, no, he's well autistic. You know, you feel like you need to fight his corner, don't you?
Play some drums. Look at him react to it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, come on. You like go and run after him, like Jay, go shout in his ear and see, look, see, he's off again. She was not saying that when he stabbed up an air tent, was he? Was he? It's like, no, he seems well autistic. Yeah, welcome to my fucking world.
When they say that they don't look autistic, it's almost like an insult though that you're lying as well.
Yeah, I know it didn't come from that place, but you're right. You do feel like you're
that.
like that's what the judgment is, that like you're over dramatizing it a little bit.
Yeah, and you know, when you've battled so hard to get a diagnosis and get support and things like that, you think, well, that's a slap in the face because, you know, it feels like they're sort of accusing you of making it up. And I know it's not usually their reason for saying it, but it does feel like that. And like you said, you feel like you need to, you know, make them
you need to prove it. You go and put the sunflower around the yard on. Look, now better now. Does he look autistic now? Like, you're not going to do that. So I didn't really know how to respond. And I thought about this for ages of like, what do you say in that situation? And I think the only thing you can say is thank you. Thanks. Because you have just acknowledged how much we've had to do to engineer an environment where they're not dysregulated.
Yeah.
Right? They're in this place where they feel safe and they're not triggered by any of the variables, the millions of variables we have to control on a daily basis. And I should have kind of explained that and said, thank you. But, you know, if you come to our house when he's just got back from school,
you'll see a very different
I think you'll have a very different view.
I think that's an amazing thing to come back with, actually, to say something like that to them, because, you don't know what to say. And you think, well, and sometimes it can be down to masking, which is the opposite of that as well. And it's like, actually, they're really uncomfortable around you. So they're, you know, putting on a show. And, you know, you've actually made my child really uncomfortable. And now they're looking like a neurotypical. So thank you for that.
Actually, he hates you.
He absolutely hates you and hates this environment and performing a neurotypical.
When he seems autistic in front of you, you know you've made it. Basically, you're one of the gang.
Yeah, and I have said that to people. I've said to people when they've been around and, they've had a meltdown or something like that, I'm like, you're very honoured. Like, that they're
Yeah,
very comfortable here.
you're in the inner
Yeah.
circle. Welcome. I love it. That's amazing.
It's not all rubbish.
Okay, so we're going to look at the positive side of things now. So one of the positives of this, I think, of being judged by other people, is that I have become significantly less judgmental as a human, and I think that's a really good thing. Like, I think that parents of neurodivergent kids are almost universally non-judgmental. I've never looked at a parent of neurodivergent kids and the way they parent and gone, "Fucking hell, I blame
Yeah.
the parents." You don't do it, do
Never.
you? You don't judge who's like, dude, you do what you have to do. Whatever
Yeah.
you do, I trust that you're doing your best with what you're working with. You crack on. I never judge their
No.
parenting. And I think that's a really good thing. That's a great
It
trait.
is, and I think we've got this actually incredible community as well now that, where we all understand each other and get each other. And I see it more and more online now where this community sort of comes together and, you just don't pass judgment of what people are doing because that they've tried everything before they've got to this stage anyway.
And that's why it's so important for people with neurodivergent kids to come together, because it is so rare that you're in a place where there's no
Yeah.
judgment. It is weirdly liberating, and it's really validating to be in this space and let your kids be as disruptive as they want to be, and not have that.
We've been on days out and things where there's been proper Zen sessions there, and it is just brilliant chaos. You've got some kids stimming over there, some are throwing stuff, some are having meltdowns in the corner, including the parents who are drinking, and it's like, it's just amazing because nobody is judging a single one of you. You're all just giving each other the smile that says, I know, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. And it's only when you're in that environment that you realize how low level this kind of fear of judgment is. So how you can, as I said before, as a parent, you can unmask as well. You don't have to try and kind of control their behavior or apologize for anything, because, that's my worst. My worst trait is following around behind going, I'm really sorry I bumped into you. And just feeling like I need to, sort of smooth over the social chaos that they've caused. It's like cleaning up after a hurricane. Whereas I don't feel I need to do that amongst parents of neurodivergent kids. And that's really, that's a wonderful thing. The other positive about judgment is that it makes it really easy to prune your list of friends. It's like, oh, right. Oh, you're not on our team. Great. Okay, fine. I don't need to bother with you then. Because I don't have capacity for loads of friends anyway. Let's face it. I've got too much admin
now,
to do.
And that's it. That's really good for me. I think, obviously, when you're neurodivergent yourself as well, you're like, actually, this is much better. I don't need to meet up with loads of people and stuff. I'm much happier with, the good quality friends rather than quantity.
Yes.
And
and there are the ones that get it. Oh, they are so precious. And if you can find the parents of neurotypical kids, they are the unicorns, right? They're the ones that don't experience what you experience, but completely sort of accept it and will try and learn about it. And crucially, they're teaching their kids that acceptance. That's really important as well.
100%. I mean, I've got a friend like that, and her little boy, actually, when we been diagnosed, and he's neurotypical, but he said, he was like, oh, where did he catch that from? And I'm going to get it. It's brilliant. They're so accepting because they just know. And when the kids are having a meltdown or a bad time or something, they're like, oh, being autistic again. And they don't think anything of it. And it's so good for those kids to grow up like that, like you say.
Well, 'cause you need to normalise it, right? You need to normalise it, and for people to understand where things are coming from so that they can accept it and be allies. That's the only way we're going to change things, really.
Neurodiversity champions.
Okay, on to neurodiversity champions now. These are the people or organisations in the world of neurodiversity One, I don't know if you've got any neurodiversity champions,
There's
Lisa.
so many, to be honest. I mean,
Right. Can I
yeah,
start with mine because they do
go with
involve
yours.
you, right? Because you are the founder of one of them, and that is Send Reform
Oh,
England, who are
yeah.
doing phenomenal things. It's an amazing organisation fighting for accommodations for our neuro-different kids in the education system. So can you just tell us a little bit more about the work that Send Reform
Yeah,
England are doing?
so we are a campaign group. We started out just over a year ago, and we've done 14 protests across England. One massive one in London, which was the first one. We've done a parliamentary drop-in, so we were speaking to lots of MPs about obviously the issues that there are with Sen at the
Amazing.
moment.
Mhm.
We've worked with National Autistic Society, with things like that. We've also donated to charities. We're still donating, actually. We've got another one coming up soon. But yeah, we're just trying to get out there more in the community now, and we're going to be organising some coffee mornings for SEND parents and things as well. But it's really trying to get it out there in the public, and I feel like that is what we've done, is we've got it into the mainstream, which has been a
Yeah, which is amazing.
huge thing. Because
And the fact you're speaking to MPs as well, so you're
yeah,
kind of talking on a policy level of trying to influence things, which is like, that was a year ago you started that. That's
yeah,
incredible.
that's the thing. It's been an absolute whirlwind, and I mean, obviously we're all just volunteers and everything like that, but it's been crazy. But we've been in the press so much with it as well, which is so
Hmm.
important, because there's a lot of people
Yeah.
out there that don't realise the issues with SEN in the education sector.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
If
I know.
you've got neurotypical children and stuff, you wouldn't be aware of it. But actually, it's affecting mainstream, SEND schools, it's affecting everybody. And
Mhm.
it really does need to be spoken about so much more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're doing amazing work, so
Thank
thank you.
you.
And I might also, you've got enough on your plate. Do you know what I mean? You're still doing this. I'm so in awe of that. It's it's incredible. So well done. I'll put a link in the show
Thank
notes to Send
you.
Reform England if anyone wants to read a little bit more about it. And also the other neurodiversity champion I wanted to mention again is
Oh,
you,
God,
Lisa,
don't say
because
that.
but no, but seriously, like, I don't know if any of the listeners have not kind of checked out your content on social media, but it is such a ray of light in amongst a world of shit sometimes. Is you basically just having a laugh and just having fun with it and shining a light on the lighter side of
Yeah.
things. It's really beautiful to see, and it's yeah, I really enjoy your content, and I urge anyone who hasn't already subscribed to your socials to do that. It's ASD with a G and T. And you've also just released a book as well, which I'm so excited to get hold of.
It's called Raising the Sen Between Us. So I really
Hmm.
wanted to talk about, like we've spoken about briefly as well, but the in-between kids, the ones that don't fit into mainstream, but, also
Hmm.
don't fit into Sen. And,
Yes.
there's a real struggle there for these children, which are like my children, who get often dismissed or forgotten about, or people say, they don't look autistic or things like that. And it's
Hmm.
trying to highlight that and show people our journey. And there is quite a lot of humour in it as well, of course.
Yeah, obviously,
But I mean, I
definitely.
try and use the comedy actually to reach the bigger audience, because I think, if you've never come across an autistic person in your life, listening to somebody talking quite seriously about it won't grab them. And,
Mm.
that's just human
No, I
nature.
agree.
But
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
bring comedy with it, it will usually reach a different audience, which we need to reach that audience more.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Tiny epic wins!
Tiny epic wins. Now, these are the things that for neurotypical families are considered sort of small fry, no big deal, right? But for our families, they're epic wins, and it's important to sort of shine a light on these and hold them up and go, look, we've achieved something amazing. So, have you got any tiny epic wins
I
for us,
have.
Lisa?
So the epic wins was actually a recent one with Finn, where we went abroad for the first time. and he
Mhm.
went and ordered his own drink. We were all inclusive, so he didn't have to, exchange money or anything. But it was such a huge win because he had to talk to a
Yeah.
stranger and ask for something, and yeah, it was amazing. So that was,
Oh,
something that
wow. Was he
he
proud
was
of
so
himself?
proud of himself. And,
Oh, amazing.
it's something that people would take for granted. He's
Yeah, of
11
course.
years old. But for him, it was such a massive deal.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so that was a big one for us.
Oh, were you all just sitting on the table waiting for him to
Yeah,
return, just going, "Come on!"
I even filmed it.
Oh, really? Tell me you got like a double vodka or something.
No, he got a Coke. He didn't get
Oh,
my drink. I need to work on that next, is that he orders drinks for me. But yeah, it was for himself. But
okay. That's fine. But yeah, it's baby steps.
yeah.
My tiny epic win was that Jay the other day, he suggested a family film night. Like he wanted to watch a film with everyone. Now,
Oh, that
normally
is amazing.
he doesn't want to watch films that anyone else wants to watch. But here's the kicker, right? He let India choose the film.
Oh my God.
Like, unbelievable. I wasn't there. I just got an excited text from Tam going, "You'll never believe this, but Jay suggested a family film night and let India choose the film." And so she chose Up and they watched it.
Oh my God.
So, like, that doesn't ever happen. Normally he's in his room scowling at the fact that people want to watch a
Yes,
Disney movie or something like
that
that.
is big.
But he seems to be lighting it up a little bit, which is amazing. So we took that as a huge win.
Definitely a win.
What the flip?
Okay, we got some what the flip moments now. These are moments where our neurodivergent children will say or do something that completely bewilders us, completely unexpected and out of the blue. So have you got any what the flip moments, Lee?
I have, and I wanted to share this one because it is funny, but I think people
Okay.
will relate to this. So Poppy was non-verbal until around the age of 3. It was just then that the speech started coming along. And she basically, the first time that she started to talk properly, she went up to some very old ladies with their dogs and screamed in their face, "Fucking dogs!" And that was one of her first words.
And you were like, "I'm so proud." And what was the response?
I mean, they were absolutely horrified and confused why I was sort of jumping around excitedly. 3-year-olds that had just come out with that. But,
like the first words
yeah.
inspired judgment from old people. It's like, yep, well, this is what it's going to be like
And
from
it was
now
like,
on.
because she was so overcome with the excitement of the dogs as well. It's just, dogs. I was like, yeah, brilliant.
Amazing. So I got my own what the flip moments as Jay comes up with lots of these. The other day I found him staring into the middle distance and I was like, "You okay, Jay?" And he said, "I feel like a domesticated olive." I was like, "Why?" He went, "I don't know, I just do." Fuck. Oh, what goes on? And then the other one was when he came to say goodnight before bedtime. And he went, "See you tomorrow, maybe, unless there's a fire, in which case, see you later. But don't let there be a fire. Good night."
Oh, don't. When they come out with things like that. We had that constantly with the plane, because obviously they'd never
Oh,
been
yeah,
on a
yeah, yeah.
plane before. And Finn was constantly telling us the statistics of all the plane
Oh,
crashes
God,
and
loudly so everyone else could hear as
very
well.
loudly. And obviously, if there is a plane crash, there's no point in the security things that they do with us because we're all going to
Yeah.
die anyway. Excellent.
Thanks for the sobering thoughts there,
Yeah.
Finn. That's the end of this episode of Neuroshambles. Lisa, thank you so much for
Thank
coming and talking
you
to me.
so much. I love these podcasts.
There's one thing I haven't mentioned to you, right? But like you do poems online, right? And I really like the poems that you do. And I also do a few little poems. I like to knock a
Yours
few
are
up.
incredible.
And I haven't had a chance to write anything or prepare anything for this one, but I was wondering if you'd be up for a challenge of writing something about being judged as a parent.
Ooh, okay.
And then just putting it out on your socials and tagging me in, and I'll do the same. And I'll do. Let's call it a poetry smackdown, if you like.
I love that.
If you're up for it.
Yeah, definitely. Love
Awesome.
that idea.
Awesome. Just once again, thank you so much, Lisa. It's been lovely chatting to you. I also say a massive thank you to the audience for continuing to listen to this absolute nonsense. I hope you get as much out of it as we do. Also, just a quick reminder to follow us on the socials. We're on Instagram and Facebook and Threads. If you've got anything you want to kind of feed back to us, any topics that you would like to suggest, then email me at hello@neuroshambles.com. That's about it for now. Thank you so much for listening. And all that remains for me to say is have a nice life.